next available KIE representative will be with you shortly. Effective January 1st, 1978, all clocks and industrial electromechanics operations will cease. Please contact your assigned account representative for account transfers or contract settlements. Thank you for holding. Your call is very important. The first available KIE representative will be with you shortly.
Mode. Effective January 1st, 1978. All parts and industrial electromechanics operations will cease. Please contact your assigned account representative for account transfers or contract settlements.
Hello, internet people. How you doing today? Are you doing good? I hope you're doing good. So, today is an interesting day because I did have something planned, but it ended up not happening at all. Because of my own hubris, my own foolishness, my own stupidity. Normally, today, I would be playing or continuing System Shock. However, all of the supporting software to do this needed a lot of work after a major system update, and I only got it operating today. So I've deferred that till tomorrow, but unfortunately, I've been so out of sorts with my schedule that I didn't want bad habits to form. So that's why I'm here today. And I have a plan on what to do. So, I might have mentioned it in previous weeks, but I have one of my, I wouldn't say it's a hobby. Actually, you know what? No, it would be a hobby. I'm not used to having hobbies. Actually, I'm not used to having hobbies that people would understand as hobbies. I have been purchasing and repairing, or at least modernizing, retro computers, and getting a lot of them stream ready. And one that has been a particular headache for me was a Commodore 64. And I can probably get into that a little bit more as we test it out, but to put it simply, it is 90% of the way into being stream ready, but there were some things I needed to test, and I thought, well, you know, if I've already screwed up my day today with streaming, I can probably shimmy in some time to do those tests. So, enough faffing about, I think it's time we just get to it. Gotta love vintage speech synthesis. Oof, I hear that. I just reinstalled Windows on a gaming desktop. Well, hi, Cat Foxworthy. How are you? I'm glad you're... glad to see you. Yeah, reinstalled Windows on your main gaming desktop. I've been having a particularly interesting time because this is a Linux and Unix house here. So the things I had to poke around with are not fun. But I at least have it going now. We can at least see things now. Well, and I'm also glad you like the vintage speech synthesis. There's some tricks to that I managed to do. So, this is our Commodore 64 running in PAL mode. I've already tested the NTSC part. That's not the issue. But I'm thinking about which desktop distro to use. Haven't run a desktop distro in a very long time. You know, it's funny because I'm a bit of an old boy in it, and I got caught flat-footed a few times from others. I originally said to somebody, well, you know, if you're really not sure, you should try Ubuntu. And I had like 4 people come out of the woodwork and be like, who said that? Don't you dare recommend that. That stuff's bad now. So I not that hostile, but still, I got the point. I got the point from them. All right. So, some things to test here. When we got this going before, or one thing I hadn't tested yet was loading from tape. The other thing was there was a, I don't actually have a floppy disk drive for this thing, but I have something called a Pi 1541. So it's like a Raspberry Pi, and it emulates the computer that is in a Commodore disk drive. And I could not get demos to run on it, which is like a really good benchmark for like checking a Commodore's health. Because if you can run the demo, then everything on your system is in pretty optimal condition. I was told that there were some very particular configuration options. I remember hearing that Commie 1541s are a computer in their own right. Yes, I can actually get to that while this loads. Basically, it goes like this. To make the 64 cheap and accessible, most of the hardware that a computer would have was stripped out. What happens instead is that if you want a peripheral, you have a cartridge slot, a user port, and a serial port. If you put a device on the serial port, it is the device's responsibility to do all of the, like, processing and control. And in the case of the cartridge, it's directly connected to the address lines of the computer. And on the user port, it has a lot of control over the computer. So the idea is you buy the computer and it's got barely anything in it. And that's the only way to get it affordable at the time, to get it in people's hands. Then when you buy your peripheral, yes, you're paying more for the peripheral, but you did that in exchange for having the cheap computer up front. And yes, in the case of the 1541, Commodore's solution was to put an entire replica of a 64 with a few modifications into the 1541. So when you do something like try and retrieve a list of files and folders, yeah, when you try and retrieve a list of files and folders, you're not looking at it yourself. You're sending a command over the serial port to the floppy drive, and you're telling the floppy drive to go get it for you. You're not looking at the disk yourself. I came from the Apple II world where I started playing with computers about 43 years ago, where they did cut a lot of corners. They did them differently. Yes, I have heard of the neat things that Wozniak managed to do to like make an Apple II run. And that's the shit I can appreciate. Things like an Apple II is not a color computer. It's actually black and white, but they give color by deliberately causing artifacting on a composite cable, like over a composite line. And I thought that's really clever. All right. So let's try this demo and see how well this works now. What was another one he did? Because like that's the one that sticks in my mind the most. The other one was that infamous non-contiguous load of like an image. So in an Apple II kind of world, if you were to say load a game or a program and it displays a picture, it doesn't draw it from top to bottom. It draws it in stripes from the top to the bottom. And that was because Wozniak laid the board out so that when, think of it as something like the address lines are not contiguous. Because ultimately, it doesn't matter what order you put the data in, so long as you retrieve it the same way you put it in, it doesn't matter. So if I say filed a sheet, like filed 20 sheets of paper into 20 different filing cabinets interleaved, it doesn't matter if they're interleaved so long as I retrieve them in that same interleaved way. But in an Apple II, describing it that way, one of the side effects is that when you load like an image, it would just load in stripes. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was a clever way to get the board cheaper. Right, so let's see if this works. And if it does, during the demonstration, I can explain what may or may not have happened to make this work. That's not a good sign. That's behaving the same as it always has. But we'll see. Alright, insert side A. This one. Oh, well, holy shit. Is she gonna fucking run? It looks that way. Alright. This is a lot farther than it used to get. So how this is described to me, or what I was suggested to do, which is at least working now, is some changes to this floppy drive emulator I'm using. So this is running a Raspberry Pi, and it's got a hat on it that's doing all of the serial communication work. Then the Raspberry Pi is emulating the built-in computer of the 1541. I was told that certain settings and a certain version of the Pi fuck up all of the timings responsible to handle this, to handle demos. Because demos really rely on very specific timings of like loading and unloading and like address changes to do shit that the computer's not supposed to actually be able to do. But it seems to be holding its own now. And so what they were warning me is the demos were failing because it was trying to load at a very particular time, and the Pi would miss the timing, and so it would, like, I don't know, write into a part of the program it shouldn't have, or it missed and loaded garbage, or a 0 or like nulls when it shouldn't have. But I don't know, it seems to be holding together now. Actually, I better go check for burning chips. I should actually do that. I put heat sinks on this thing, but... Carefully. Okay, well that regulator's hot, but that should always be hot. That's fine. I just gotta be careful not to touch something that's like high volts. Oh, I need to put a heatsink on the CPU later. It seems to be okay, I don't smell smoke. 7805s love to run hot. Yes, they do. For a while I took a bunch of like copper pipes and I hammered them flat and drilled a hole in them, and that was the heat sink. But then I realized there was no place for the heat to go. Yeah, so it does seem to be loading okay. Let's see. So what this is doing is every like major part of the demonstration, it's doing a frantic loading. And so it's doing the load as the scene is changing. So I'm kind of just doing little peeks over to the corner. I'm impressed, actually. Actually, it doesn't look too bad either. For a while, I was concerned that one of the memory chips was being grumpy. Because the Commodore 64 is not actually 64 kilobytes. It's 68. There's 4 kilobytes on a dedicated chip just to describe the color on the screen. And sometimes that one is... Sometimes that one's grumpy too. And then you think, well, whoop-de-shit, it's just color. What's so important about that? So metadata memory for the graphics. Yes, it is metadata just to describe what colors are on what section of the screen. But there are ways you can use it to just store data on its own if you were, say, trying to do a fast load or something. Which is where that weird shit when you load tapes or load floppies where the screen gets all scrambled comes from. It's just... They can put up with it looking ugly. If you can make the person accept the fact that the screen's gonna look ugly for a minute, you can put some data there in like a scratch area to speed up your loading process. I'm impressed that this is holding together. Hot damn. So this is almost ready, I think, for showtime. There's one thing that I need to do left. Like, one thing left to do. So a Commodore 64 uses dynamic RAM, and a lot of the design is oriented around the use of dynamic RAM. So you write the data in once, and a few milliseconds later, you have to come back and rewrite the data in. And the design consideration is that when you say bounce the machine, there's nothing there to rewrite the data, so it just flushes back to, well, I say 0, but just gibberish garbage. If you have static RAM in there, like I do, some programs, you write them in, then you start it, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna restart. And you can't. You restart back to the game, or the program you were running. Which is very derailing if I wanted to switch games. Okay, I've seen this on an emulator before, but I'm more so impressed seeing this on bare metal. Now, what makes me twitchy is, like I mentioned before, this is running static RAM in lieu of the, like, 8 chips of dynamic. And some loading techniques and demo scene techniques rely on deterioration of memory, which static doesn't do when the power's on. So I don't know how this is going to behave. So how did you replace those 84164s with SRAM? There are adapter kits you can get. And so what they do is they just plug in, it's like a carrier board, and it's like a surface mount static RAM. Yeah, so it's like surface mount static RAM chip on a carrier board and a bit of glue logic, and then you stick the carrier board in, and its pins are spaced out exactly to go into the correct address pins on the socket where those 4164s used to go. What I have, though, is a part, like, I say rebuild, and I say I had a rebuild kit, but in reality it was a whole new board made by a fella called DIY Chris. And one of the things he's done is, well, he's added the ability to put 2 VIC chips in here, so that's the... Oh. Ow. Oh dear. Well, something had to fail sometime. I think I see something about these new parts. Yes, yeah, there's still a lot going on with this. Well, that's just one of the rebuild kits, so... Sorry, where was I going before I got, scared by my own machine here? Right, so this is a board from a fella called DIY Chris. So what he's done is he's taken the most common board that Commodores have in them, which is like a 25407, and he's modified it so that you can have 2 VIC chips installed, and you flip some toggle switches, and it goes between NTSC and PAL. And then he's got another part where you flick some toggle switches, and you can go between a big static RAM chip or the old dynamic RAM alternative. Since new Commodores used two 4 kilobit chips, two 4464s? I can't remember. But basically, instead of it being a 4464s, thank you. It uses 2 4464s instead of 8 4164s. So he shrunk that down. That gave room to add a static RAM option with a toggle switch. And so right now I'm using the static RAM because that's easier to get to. Like, that's easier to get right now. 4 bits by 64 kilobits. Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right. You're right on the money. I keep forgetting the numbers. So it wasn't perfect, but it is a lot better than it used to be. And I think I have an idea on what's going on. Actually, no, I don't. I thought I did, but I might not. I think the little Ampro little board that used that setup 4464. I think the Ampro little board uses that setup, 2 4464s. I'd have to look at the pictures to be sure. Oh yes, and then there's there's tons of modifications you can get for these things, right? So the two ways you can go about it are you can get a new board and transplant the chips, or if you have a functioning old board, there are like carrier boards and upgrades you can kind of solder in or plug into where other spots were. The Ampro Little board was an SBC that had a Z80 processor and ran CPM80. And I take it the Ampro Little board was... Oh, so it was an SBC, so it was a standalone thing, hey? Has a form factor of a 5.25-inch drive. That's very neat. One of those items you can chuck at me in my TITS setup. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Ahoy. I can be here just for a little bit before I have to finish my writing for the day, but neat demo stuff. Thanks, Sunfall. I'm glad you got to see it. I actually got this thing to hold together long enough. And the short version is, it was the disk drive's fault, not the computer's fault. Because the disk drive is a computer in one of these. So, Kat, I think the last time Awesome. I also have a... Where's the other chat channel coming from? Also, 1541s are one of the most cantankerous sons of bitches ever, if that's what you're referring to. Yes, actually. And, Sunfall, what happened is, this is VStream. Yes, what Kat said, it's VStream. What I'm doing is, I don't have a 1541, but I have a Raspberry Pi emulating a 1541, and there's a logic board on the GPIO header to do the serial, and a whole bunch of software settings. Oh, look at that! Small world! And, what happened was, there was, I think, a combination of temperature, EMI, and... like, some regressions in the code to emulate that would cause the emulator to miss timings. And so demos would fall apart, and some, like, really picky games weren't working either. But after doing those changes, it seems to be holding its own. But I want to have this thing run for a while to warm up. And I want to see if it starts missing timings again. But yes, I also have a Ferguson big board as well as a CompuPro S286 S100 card in that collection as well as an entire CompuPro S100 backplane chassis. Cool stuff. So, I think, Kat, I saw you doing like an acceptance test before. You haven't actually gotten... Oh no, if you're on the Twitch side, you've probably been doing this for a while. So I'll keep that in mind. It'll be fun to throw a computer at your head. Well, shit, it actually got through the whole thing. I've been streaming for like 3 years now. Oh, I see. Okay, I get you now. Because when you said you were able to do features like that, I thought, like, damn, that went from, like, seeing you a few weeks prior to being all the way ready to get stuff thrown at your head. Alright, so... Booze. Yep, Booze Designs is the folks who wrote this demo. Alright, let's give it a bounce. Okay, good! This one, I was able to get back. Alright. Let's try another one. How about... In hindsight, I should have done this one because it's smaller. Load. Star. 8, 1. Cool, cool stuff. Oh. Now I'm punching my microphone. So for three years now, you say, have you been enjoying it so far? I've kind of just been using Lodestar 8.1 is pretty much the limit of my knowledge about how to make a C64 go vroom vroom. You're an Apple IIc kid. I must be the weird one in the room. Okay, well if there's an Atari person in here, we're gonna have a fight, but... Oh. Hang on a minute. Later, that 2 Plus would receive a Microsoft soft card so I could run CPM, used WordStar for years to write stuff, and DBase 2 for database management. This can't be too old of a demo. That paintbrush blood art style wouldn't have been a thing in the 80s. No, this is the interesting part. We have folks, even this year, making demos for this thing. Like, it's very impressive. You'd think people would have given up by now. They're not giving up. There are old guys who don't have better things to do, and I'm here for it. Because I also don't have better things to do with my life. But I realize now, speaking of things all going wrong, my monitor... ChatVac is failing me. So, I noticed here, Cat, that you followed, and I unfortunately didn't get notified, or any of my automated things didn't work, so I'll do it manually, just for you. There you go. Hi, Michisu. How you doing? A couple of old Shugart drives. You found my photo bashing secret, eh? I got you, Hershey. You just stay. You be cozy. Not sure if they're 5 1/4 or 8 inch though. That's a good question. I was, you kind of caught on to my photo bashing secrets. I'm pretty sure that this was a, I had a couple of, SA851s, DS 8-inch floppy drives on one of my machines. Ugh. Jeez. I was looking away for a minute and I just see a face like that. It's holding together though. Now, the disc emulator's getting hot, so I want to see if it... I've got a stinking hunch if it, say, down clocks for a minute, if maybe it starts missing timings, and that's when it acts up. Memory of 8-inch drives is strictly from the movie War Games. Okay, so... without oversharing, I was with I was part of a family where they said it was absolutely imperative that I learn how computers work, but they also didn't have a lot of money to throw at it, so they'd get enterprise e-waste. And so it's like, I've seen them, and then I was promptly told, don't touch them. Do not. Only madness that way lies. Well, there's a story to that. Good old e-waste. Well, yeah, and I'm bummed I can't really do that anymore. This province I live in is very aggressive with e-waste. That face is canonically creepy as fuck. Thank you, I don't feel so, like... I don't feel so alone about it. But yes, there's a story to that. So my grandpa used to be a drafter for the railway, so it was up to him. Well, he would be given a task like, we got these 2 cities, we need a transport route for food. So you plot this track out, and so it would be his job to, well, route the track so the train wouldn't flip over, and say where to build a bridge and where to flatten the land. He got replaced by... He didn't say which one it was, but he got replaced by a mainframe, and he came into our family one day absolutely pissed off, and he points at me and says, I want Henry to be the guy who takes over the guy who took over my job. I want Henry to run the mainframe that took my job. And that's what they did. And I have no other skills or redeeming quality. How we doing today? Up for some after-stream stuffs? We'll see. We'll see. Everything went absolutely wrong today. This is my only way to get some normalcy today, because I was supposed to do System Shock and whatnot, but that all blew up. Actually, I just realized now, thanks to who followed earlier. It was Foxworthy, I think. Great, I'm losing all my tabs. Oh yeah, it was Cat Foxworthy. Cat followed, and then none of the systems to actually credit them came up, which is... that wasn't very good of me. So I still have a lot of stuff I need to fix up. Alright. Let's see if turning a disc over blows it up. Speaking of 8-inch floppies, yeah, let's hear it. That looks like a single-sided disc. Yes. It does look like a single-sided disc. Is it gonna... Are you gonna read it, bud? Come on. The index hole of the double-sided disc are move a bit over to the right a bit. I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to remember the game, but actually I'm a bit too toasty. Excuse me a minute. Well, shit, it's not reading the second half. Oh, it didn't like that. Okay, gotta get back to writing. Glad the C64 is behaving so far. Thanks, Sunfall, and happy writing. Good to see a fellow Apple II person. Well, shit. So this demo got halfway, but when it asked for the second disc, it wasn't taken in. So there's still something wrong with the disc emulation. Alright, let's try one last one. And then we'll try some games out. That's how the double-sided... Oh, let's see. The index hole of a double-sided disc moved a bit over to the right a bit. That's how double-sided drives could tell it's using a double-sided disc. Now, the minutia on how these drives, like, how the discs were, like, made and produced, I'm not too terribly sure on, but one thing I do know is to make the drives cheap, there's only one read head on one side of this floppy, which is why you have to turn it upside down. What that also meant was that some games were only written on one side and then the other side was blank. So sometimes like the publisher would make like the back side the saving side and then the application side the top. Then I was hearing a speech from Jason Scott. Yeah, same on the Apple II. Neither the Commodore nor the Apple II used the index hole. Oh, that's what it was. So, right. The story. So Jason Scott, I remember a speech from him. And there's a particular Commodore 64 game, and there was a particular version of this game where the publishers put a prank in. So the game only took one side of the disc. So what they did is they rewrote the game a second time. And so if you loaded the game label side up, it was the regular game. But if you loaded it label side down, it was a different version of the game where all your controls were inverted, and they inverted the y-axis for all the rendering of graphics. And the point was to get a support call. Yeah, so you loaded the game upside down. So if you called in and you're like, hey, this game's loaded upside down, you go, oh, it's because you put the game in upside down. Label's got to be up. Well, I'm a little miffed about about my automated stuff not working. Well, that was fine. So why did it not identify your follow? I'll have to troubleshoot it another time, I think. That's a bummer. Okay, well this one's not loading either. So, we still have a little bit of work I need to do. I might have to rebuild another 1541. There's a third revision of this thing. So maybe I'll And it's a bit of a larger box and they have better cooling. So maybe what's going on is this thing's overheating and it's missing, like, the proper timings. Right, so that's the disk drive half. So let's try loading some tapes instead. So let's do that. We got a bit of games loaded on here. And I'm going to be careful which ones I choose, because some don't play well at the static RAM. Let's try this one. Press play on the tape. We'll see if this audio circuit works. What are you using for chat parsing and overlays? Overlays is Spit and Baling Twine. Chat parsing is Sammy. I was using Phantom Bot for a while, but I found it just most of the like really neat stuff, the real neat shit, came from Sammy. But yes, overlays it's all contained within OBS, and then I'm doing tricks with shaders and stuff that I like pre-rendered and edited outside of OBS in a photo editor. Are you using like something like Proton for Sammy, or are you're running Linux? Yes, I am running Linux. This is a Linux house. And specifically, yeah, it's Proton for Sammy is what I'm using. And, like, honestly, Proton for Sammy works quite well. One thing that has confused me a little bit, though, is Sammy's... That works well. That's just loud. Sorry. So I am, one thing that's kind of confused me a bit with Sammy is they said it's not open source, but their source code is on GitHub, protected under, I think, GPL, and some of their stuff is protected under MIT. So I was always a little bit confused about that. I use Sammy here because I need the ability to talk to multiple OBS Studio WebSocket instances. That sounds like you're doing some big kid streamer shit. You willing to spread your... That's why I don't use Elgato Stream Deck. I don't use Elgato Stream Deck either. I tried... Okay, I keep saying I'm trying really hard to use a product, but I haven't actually used the product yet. There's an open source alternative, and it uses a Raspberry Pi, because everything uses a Raspberry Pi. I can't pull it up right now, I don't think. No, I can't pull it up right now. You're running on You're running the whole operation on 4 boxes, oh my god. You've got yourself a herd of boxing, that's what you got. I'm running this on a big old beefy crown jewel. Or at least trying to. Holding its own, more or less. Except when I bugger up the software like I did here. Actually, I gotta try something. So that worked. So why didn't... Aw, well, it's a shame that your follow notification didn't work. I'll have to troubleshoot it another time. So it's like it's not listening to events. 3 Intel Core i7s and 1 AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. Jeez. So what is each of them doing right now? We got a ding. Alright. Oh shit. It wasn't loading in the background. Well, now I feel like a dingus. Okay, I'm pretty pleased that that audio circuit works. I was scared for a minute I was gonna fry something. I still feel like I need to do a bit more work to it. My Ryzen is my gaming machine, plus it also has my mic. I should have given a seizure warning. I just realized that. I run OBS Studio on that machine, capturing either my PC's game or whatever is hooked into my Elgato HD 60X HDMI capture device, sending a beam stream to my studio PC over a dedicated gigabit Ethernet connection. Now, that I like, because the actual appliance dedicated to sending the stream up to wherever it needs to go. Sorry, let me start that sentence over. My brain just, like, imploded on itself for a minute. So you have a dedicated appliance for the sole purpose of sending up to whatever streaming service. And I like that, because now when you try and do some work external to yourself or whatever. Morachi, what's up? Oh, not too terribly much. I had something regularly scheduled for today and everything broke down. So now I have it more or less running, but I've missed that train. So now I'm taking this opportunity to fix up or test a machine I've been fixing up for a while now. And it's more or less met most of its tests, so now we're trying some games out. One of the Core i7s runs VTube Studio, TITS, and a compositing OBS Studio to send a scene with an alpha channel to my studio PC over its own dedicated Ethernet connection. So you have a private LAN for the 3 servers, basically acting as servers right now. 3 servers going to the broadcasting box, and the broadcasting box goes up. Sorry, is the broadcasting box the Ryzen? Alright. Ah, yes, understandable. And how's Marachi today? You doing good? I hope so. I only keep the best high scores. Sign here if you want to compete. I need to switch that. Someday you might be on the poster. Watch the corners in pool joust. Want to change board color. Alright. Let's go practice. Quit your yanking and go practice. Yes, sir. The fourth one does encoding and packet pushing to Twitch, YouTube, Restream, wherever. Packet pushing to Twitch. See, that's cool. I appreciate that a lot. So what's neat about that setup you've got there, Cat, is... Good, I ate a ton tonight and you're full. Oh yeah, what good food did you get in? Get yourself tonight. So Cat, I like that setup very much because now you have some resiliency. Once one of your 4 boxen can have an issue, and you can just take that one down and work on it, and you don't have to rebuild everything else. I'm playing fast and loose, admittedly. Yeah, same box here that I'm doing the streaming on is the same one that's capturing and transmitting and my everything else. Then any audio that needs to move between these computers have their own Ethernet connection, all of which happening on a Cisco Catalyst 3506 or 3560G. Ooh, you got yourself a fancy pants Cisco. I'm a bit of an enterprise heathen, but I'm a Fortinet fella myself. That's happened on stream actually. Thanksgiving stuff. Ooh, tasty Thanksgiving stuff. Leftover, so many leftovers you can have a whole miniature Thanksgiving afterwards, eh? Right, American Thanksgiving was yesterday, wasn't it? No, 22nd. No. No, yesterday. It was yesterday, wasn't it? What was I on about? Oh, yes. I'm a bit of an enterprise heathen, because I'm a Fortinet fella myself. And the only reason I don't is I can't afford the annual licensing fee. So now I am 23rd. 23rd! Oh, right, that's when it was. Thank you. I should have known better. I'm a Canadian. We had ours last month. You know, in hindsight, I should have gotten the floppy version if it was going to do this. Because it has to do a sequential read and then disregard it. Thursday because Black Friday is always on a Friday. Right. I managed to get myself a good deal on a Black Friday, and I didn't have to beat up an old lady for it. That's what happens on Black Friday still, right? I've been sitting on an old, I've been sitting on a Sega Saturn with a dead optical drive. There's nothing else wrong with it. And, there was a company in Andorra, and I had to go look on a map where Andorra was, and then I couldn't find it, so I had to find a higher resolution map of Andorra, because it's apparently a country the size of a city in between France and Spain. And, they had an optical drive emulator for the thing, but they wanted, like, 200... They wanted, like, 200 euros for it. But apparently this French company has made a cheaper one out of an old, not an old microcontroller, an ESP32 microcontroller. Oh, this has been loading. This has been searching forever. I chose the worst part for this thing to try and load. Is it too loud? I put an inline volume control, but it's kind of hard for me to determine that. Oh, did it stop? Did you... No. Oh. Oh, there we go. Found it. Okay. So I managed to get one of those on a Black Friday, which is nice. And I didn't have to leave, this area here. It's perfect, actually. The level's just fine. Good. My first rendition of this circuit to get the signal out. Like, I'm amazed I didn't damage the capture device, but it was spitting out, like... I think it was spitting out just straight up 5 volts. Then I had to put then I didn't have a diode, and so when I played with the headphone jack, I ended up screwing the 5-volt rail up on the Commodore here, and would crash it out. Now I'm debating getting a transformer put in it. Like an isolation transformer, because I have one of those, ground loop isolators in line as, like, a means of protecting the C64, But that's effort, and I have executive dysfunction, and I don't wanna. Ah, yes. We all get to experience the tinnitus-inducing screech of a middle-class family in the 1980s. Yes, this is loading in real time. There's no trickery here. This is the shit people went through to play Skate or Die when they couldn't afford a floppy drive. You've been to Andorra yourself, hey? How is it? I know the way I explained it was a little disparaging, but if it's a little quaint country like that, the size of a city in between. No, not Andorra, but the cassette loading part. Oh, yes. I'm lucky. I had a junkered PC clone that was like the first time I managed to get a computer of my own. Apparently my dear old mother was assigned she said she was assigned a C64 as part of her job. Though it's on an Apple II, I did that. Ah. So I guess if Thanksgiving is out of the way for the Americans, we're very rapidly approaching the time where everyone is full of liquor and sweets, and time has no meaning until January 1st. We have it? Oh dang, son. Oh dang. Eat shit, nerd. Wait, I'm the nerd. No. Practice again? Yeah. Before Tony Hawk, there was this. Let's try regular foot. Oh, regular foot inverts your controls. Try walking. Get it. No. Oh, he fucking flew. Where'd he go? Alright, so now I know I play best with a goofy foot. No crashes. No, I will crash. I will crash when I want. Did it ever occur to you I want to make this guy have a life-altering concussion? No, I didn't think you did. No, sir. Okay, let's practice again. Goofy foot. Come on, buddy. Eat shit, nerd. I like how that's supposed to be me, and I'm just like, ha, you're stuck. Get bit. No bonus. Practice again. You know what? One more time. One more time. And we're gonna do Goofy. Go home. Why did it put me here? Okay, I don't get why it did that. Wasn't Fortinet's main thing security appliances? I've seen Fortinet stuff in local surplus places as well. At work, which is IT asset disposition. Fortinet was originally a security appliance company, but they branched out into enterprise networking in its entirety. And so what that let them do is, so now it's actually pretty cool. So how it works is you can just get the firewall, and that's a FortiGate. And then they said, well, okay, well, we have our firewall, and everyone likes it because it's not Cisco stuff. No offense. But, like, Cisco Cisco iOS is a choice in the modern era. And some folks need it, it's just not all do anymore. Practice again? No. And so, then what they decided to do, rewind the tape. Oh boy, how do I make it rewind the tape? Oh, there we go. Well, that's clever. Okay, so then it works like this. People liked the user interface for the FortiGate. They started taking off. They started getting a lot of money in. So then they said, okay, well, let's start working on some switches. I use ViOS for the actual routing side of things here. Oh, okay. So, then what Fortinet decided to do was make switches. And then the switches have the same user interface, and then they had the Forti switch. And then their bread and butter, or like their killer app, is they're able to take the... If your FortiGate can detect that you have Forti switches, you can integrate them into the FortiGate, and then you can administer your entire network as if it is the firewall. So I can start doing things like, from the FortiGate, I can point at a Forti switch and say, you, port 12 is now tagged on these VLANs. And you don't have to go into the Forti switch at all to do that. The FortiGate manages that now, which makes it very easy to administer. And I know some of the other offerings do that as well. It's just Fortinet has, in my opinion, done a better job with that integration and that support. And then, well, then they did some other neat things to earn their stripes, which, I mean, I feel that they earned their stripes during the WannaCry because they pulled a lot of IT providers to the side and ran a secret meeting and were like, look, some of our software accidentally detected this early. Which is a weird thing for them to say. Like, how many of my stack switches will allow me to manage... Much like how my stacked switches will allow me to manage the entire stack as one entity. Yes, that's exactly right. So, like a series of... or an array of stacked switches act like one switch. If you run an entire Fortinet stack, so... FortiGate for the firewall, Forti switches, and then telephony and VoIP gateways like FortiPhone, and then wireless access points and FortiAPs. The entire network becomes basically one entity you can administer from the FortiGate. And the design paradigm for the FortiGate is everything is an object. And yes, there's a command line, but the idea is most administration duties can be done from the GUI, and your creation of those objects and the things you apply to those objects is all done through the GUI, and then there's a command line alternative if you want to, say, automate it with a third-party system. So and their support's really good, but I can't afford it. So I'm a broke nerd. But I've yet to see any Cisco procs beyond a couple of, like, switches with, which say a router managed just like that. Sorry. With, say, a router managed like that just yet. Yeah, and that's the thing, is Cisco has tried. I've seen some things that are similar, but it's not really gone that far. Oh, my connection stability's gone quite poor right now. Okay, I'm gonna try the high jump, and then maybe I'll switch to another game. I think maybe, okay, let's see, it's an hour and a half. I'll maybe go for 2 hours. If this is acting as unstable and grumpy as it is, I don't know. We'll see. I realize that encoding might be very grumpy right now. Because I don't think it's taking very kindly to the randomly fluctuating colored screen. So I think part of the stability issues I'm having is the screen. Yeah, your streams have been acting up here. It says here I've got a packet loss of 6.2%. But that's to Twitch. I don't get a printout on VStream with the way I'm doing this. That's unfortunate. But I mean, it is kind of my luck today. Things have been really, really just shit in the bed. Oh well. I've actually remastered some cassettes from .wav files, from actual cassettes to new recordings. I wonder if they work on a real Apple II. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one. Now, now this is an interesting thing. There is a thing called the Tap Dancer. So Tap Dancer is an application you put on like an Android phone or an iOS device, and if you feed it a .tap file, it will come on, brain, catch up, brain. The tape's loading faster than my brain is. Come on. Come on. Right. Tap Dancer. So Tap Dancer lets you feed a .tap file, which is basically an audio file. Maybe get MTR to find out where things are going to hell. MTR. Tell me about MTR. I've not heard of this. Or maybe I have heard of it, but not with that acronym. Oh, but Tap Dancer only plays the audio. You have to have a converter device attached to the tape port. MTR is much like ping and traceroute in one package. Oh, I see. Okay, I understand now. It used to be called Matt's traceroute. Okay, I've heard of Matt's traceroute. And it does like, instead of using ICMP, it uses SYN packets and waits for an ACK, right? Or am I thinking of another one? No, that's TC ping. I will be perpetually confused. It's like my natural state is confusion. Confusion and mild distress. It may use ICMP to determine latency of each hop, but it uses UDP for the actual trace. Oh, I see. How do you do this? Okay, well, I don't think it's the tape loading that's causing the issue, because... It was showing a drop in latency earlier. Why am I flowing to a halt? It'll show you per hop, ping count, reply, received count, as well as times, longest, shortest, average, as well as packet loss. Oh, you gotta mash it, Jesus. Did he just explode? Okay, I have an idea. There is actually a game I want to play. We're gonna play that, and that'll probably cap us off by 2 hours. Excuse me, sir, we didn't say you were to load. Abort load. Alright. No, abort load. Alright, play. Do, boo, ba-do, 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 ba-do. Alright. Yeah, or put a hole in the ground. Yes, maybe he fell through a hole. Maybe he may have caused a hole like a Looney Tunes character. Alright, Alright. We're in the U's. Oh, there's a lot of U's. This has got... Wait. Stunt car racer? Alright. No. We're putting a pin in what I want to play. We're playing Stunt Car Racer. Yes, sir. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I am a little miffed about my network performance, though. I might take this opportunity to, while it's loading, sneak. Oh god, I cratered. God, the network's going down. Oh boy. Alright, let's see what the system performance is. Why is it complaining about 100% capacity? I shouldn't be over at 100%. Okay, and that's Wi-Fi. This one is fun. This one is fun, but I know it on Amiga. Not the 64. Okay, so while this is loading, I am taking the opportunity to try and look at my network performance from the firewall. Sorry, is that current or is that... Okay, so it's not really reporting. That must be lifetime reporting. I'm seeing if there's something on my network that's choking this connection up. It doesn't seem that way. 79% loaded of the tape here. Maybe I won't do the one that has my favorite song in it, because all my performance seems to be going down. But one thing I can tell you is that we are having a very busy day on Twitch, so there's a possibility that we're just overwhelming their systems. And like I've brought up before, if you have to choose between one of your partners or one of your affiliates and just like some random nerd, they're going to prioritize those guys' traffic over mine, which makes perfect sense. Maybe we're a bit too busy on VStream as well, but I seriously doubt that. Let's see what's live right now. 1, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 27. 27 people streaming. I don't know how big their servers are. Speaking of Raspberry Pis, in particular about Amigas, did you hear about an in-circuit emulation package exists for the Pi? Yes, PiStorm, I think is what it's called. And I've been debating getting a PiStorm, but I'm not exactly, at the same time, I'm not too terribly sure what I'd do with the PiStorm. Alright, single player league. Name, Henry. Practice the ski jump. Alright, everything seems to be falling apart, so maybe I'll just play this and pack her in. But this is it. This is a 985 kilohertz computer. It's not even a megahertz, 1 megahertz. Doing 3D. It replaces the 68K processor with the Pi, running an emulator with the ROMs in it for the Amiga. Well, honestly, at that point, it reminds me... Like, it's a neat idea. I like that a lot. And it really does blur the line between hardware and software. But one of the things that makes an Amiga particularly powerful... Oh, God. Oh, no! Oh, no! Off the cliff! Oh, no. But one of the one of the things that makes the expansion bus so powerful on an Amiga is it can assume control over many Amiga functions. And what it means is that if you want, you can place an entire computer inside and basically replace the entire architecture of the Amiga while still having all of the Amiga peripherals. And so there were expansion cards and accelerator cards that moved users from M68K to PowerPC and turned Amigas into, well, there's PowerPC Amigas or Linux boxes. And you can still get them. But I'm thinking to myself at that point, if you use a Raspberry Pi as an accelerator like that, why don't you just have it move to, well, an ARM-based Amiga running Linux instead? Like porting Amiga OS to ARM and then using a Raspberry Pi as the accelerator seems like a pretty novel idea to me. Because that would also give the Amiga HDMI out. But what do I know? And I'm sorry, guys. I thought this was going to run a lot better than it was. But I think near the end, things are just starting to go kaput. I think today your old pal Henry can only have so much success. God, I love this though. 985 kilohertz. And this is what we're getting. Is full 3D. Well, not full, like, okay, the car's not full 3D. But when you're playing with the CPU characters, like the CPU players, there's 3D for them. So we're doing 3D rendering of the whole track, and we're actually, well, tracking the player on the track. Oh, God. Which is really, really, really fucking cool. God, what is going on here? Okay, you know, I have an idea on what to do. I may see if I can implement QoS. Implement QoS for my streaming box. Because it's reporting right now that I'm only able to transmit 3 megabits per second to Twitch. And I'm fluctuating between 2 megabits to 5 megabits to VStream. And I seriously doubt both are acting up in the same way. Oh, I actually wanted to... Can I back out? Ah, we'll give it another go. I wanted to practice one of the other courses. But yeah, that's a novel idea. I really think it's a cool idea to do that. Using a Raspberry Pi to emulate most of the functions of the Amiga. And because there's that function to, like, assume control over some of the functions of the Amiga on board and have them off board, it's a pretty easy thing to do. So it's a cheap way to give, like, a huge acceleration to the box. Maybe I'll... I don't think it's an operating system issue. I don't understand what else could be... what could be causing it. Maybe one of these days I'll do a multi-stream, just burner stream. Just, like, run a demo on loop or something to, like, put some load on an encoder or something and see if these network hiccups keep happening. But as far as I'm aware, there really shouldn't be anything to cause an upload issue. Okay, I have also tried, like, streaming behind a VPN as well. That didn't really change anything. So it's not like somebody's seeing the IP address I'm using and, you know, throttling it that way. Then again, those IP addresses change quite frequently. I'm looking at the stream, and it is now so far behind. It's now so far behind where I actually am that, you know, maybe I should pack it in here. It's just becoming a disservice. Yeah, it's... Yeah, on the VStream side, it's still showing me loading, which is very unfortunate. Actually, you know what? Yeah. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it here, and I'm going to put everyone... I'm going to basically be on the hold screen until the stream catches up, so that when I cut the stream, it doesn't terminate early and leave, like, a segmented or incomplete VOD on the other side. So, yeah. I'll wrap it up here. But we've had some new faces show up today, and that was really cool, I think. And I'm glad that there's folks who, you know, got to see this stuff. For some, it might be the first time. For some, they might not appreciate the tinnitus-inducing screech. And you know what? We're 10 minutes to... We're 10 minutes to 2 hours anyway, so I think we'll be alright. Let's get the hold music back up. So... what else? We've actually gotten to prove that a lot of this Commodore is working as expected. The main thing I need to be concerned about now is getting dynamic RAM to replace the static RAM kludge. Well, not kludge. It's a feature of this board now that I have to replace that the rebuild board has. So I'll wait for the dynamic RAM to come in, take the static RAM out, put the dynamic in. And that should make it stream ready, because that means I can play a game and go, okay, we're done this one, boom, hit reset, and we're back to loading something else. Instead of, you know, struggling with... Oh, we got L:Q in. Well, thank you for following. I appreciate it. I might as well send him a message here right now. Yes. I might as well, send him the appropriate message. There we go. Now he's notified because we're about like 5 or 10 minutes behind the feed. But that's still very nice of him to swing by. So, to recap, we've tested the Pi 1541 disk drive emulator with the firmware change, the code change, and some of the settings changes. It is operating much better now. The loading is fine. And, we've tested games, we tested the tape works. And, yeah, we're, I think, ready to go. And interestingly, we've had a lot of folks coming in to see it and say hi, which is very nice. I like that. I appreciate that a lot.